Hey everyone, Resonance here, and today I've got a Pokemon X and Y Wi-Fi battle for you guys against one of my good viewers, FlunkedMath. This time I threw together a team of basically 6 random Pokemon from my competitive box, so this team is unfortunately lacking things like entry hazards. However, this turned out to be one crazy battle, and in fact the longest Pokemon battle that I've ever had so far. Right off the bat, I can see that my opponent's team is looking super defensive, and interestingly enough, has no possible Mega Evolutions on it. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump straight into this battle. I figured that he would probably lead off with his Breloom for the usual Spore shenanigans, but I wasn't 100% sure, so I wanted to lead off with my Garchomp just so I could threaten out whatever else he leaded with a Banded Earthquake. However, it turns out he did actually lead off with Breloom, so I'm just going to switch straight out into my Mandibuzz here, predicting the Spore. So here comes Mandibuzz, but it turns out that he actually also switches out, I'm assuming predicting the Banded Earthquake from my Garchomp, and he switches out into his Trevenant Forager right here. I'm going to go for the knockoff right now, hoping that his Trevenant stays in, because knockoff is super effective and I can knock off his berry or whatever. I'm not sure if you can still harvest it after that. But he makes the smart play here and he switches into his Azumarill, which resists the Dark type knockoff. And I knock off his Lumberry, which is interesting. I don't normally see a Lumberry set. So that was kind of confusing for me. I wasn't 100% sure what set he was running. But later on I figure out that, I figure out what set he was running. So I predict the play rough, and then I switch into my Arcanine, which resists it, but it turns out that he also predicts the switch to Arcanine or something like that, and he goes for the Waterfall here, which did a ton of damage. I figured, with the Intimidate, the play rough would do absolutely nothing, and I could threaten him out with like a Wild Charge or Extreme Speed. But anyway, predicting another Waterfall or Aqua Jet to finish me off, I switch into my Mandibuzz here. And then he switches out into his Zygarde here, Eco Former. So he's going to go switch out here, fearing the knockoff, and he's going to go straight back into his Azumarill. I wanted to be safe, so I went for the knockoff anyway, hoping that he'd stay in and try and set up on me with some sort of Dragon Dance shenanigans, which they're usually running like a Dragon Dance, Extreme Speed, whatnot. So I go for the Toxic here in his Azumarill as he stays in, because I know I can take one play rough, and I know this Azumarill is going to drive me absolutely crazy. And now that he has no more Lumberry, I know I can go for the Toxic safely, but that play rough still does quite a bit, but I knew I could live it, and this Azumarill, like, I really did not have much on my team to take care of it, and that really shows throughout this entire match. So the Toxic damage is ticking on him now, and here comes a little bit of a stall fest. I'm just going to be roosting here and try and stalling him out, because I know that there's no way that he can continuously kill me with play rough, and I have really nothing I can deal with this Azumarill, especially now that my Arcanine is so low in HP. He's going to go for another play rough here. He gets 2 attack drops, which is completely irrelevant, but funny nonetheless, as I'm not going to hit him with another knockoff anymore. And then the next turn I'm just going to go for another roost as usual, and I'm just going to try and get him as low as possible so that I can revenge kill him with an Extreme Speed from my Arcanine. Basically, Pokemon is all about the predictions. It's just a big mind game. It's like rock, paper, scissors with like 18 different things that you could use, but your opponent can only bring 6. It's very complicated and very cool. I do definitely enjoy Pokemon. So right now he's getting to about lower than half. I'm going to roost up again. I'm getting really low from these play roughs. They're doing about 60% to me, which is definitely really concerning. I actually do dodge a play rough here, but that's not super relevant. Either way, he's realizing now that he really can't afford to stay in here, and I'm just really trying to force him out. So I'm gonna go for another roost, predicting another play rough, because that's what I'm assuming he's going to go for. And it turns out that he actually is carrying Rest, so he's a Rest set, which I guess makes sense considering that he's running the Lumberry there. That way he can soak up any sort of Will-O-Wisps or Toxics as well as just go for a Rest of his own. Although I guess you could always just run a Chesto Berry in that case too. So anyway, goes for the rest here. That was really annoying. I did not see that coming at all, although in retrospect I probably should have. So I switch out of my Carracosta here, which is carrying Shell Smash. I figure I can just go set up on his Azumarill if he wants to keep it in and try and burn off those turns of sleep, because he doesn't have his Lumberry, so he can't wake up anymore. And so he goes out into Trevenant. I switch out into Arcanine basically because I'm assuming that his Trevenant is going to hit me with a Will-O-Wisp, and Fire types cannot be hit by Will-O-Wisp, so I do get to soak that up for free, and I get a free hit out with my Arcanine right now. I go for the Wild Charge, predicting him to go into his Azumarill, because I could have gone for the Flare Blitz right on his Trevenant, but I thought that was too obvious, so I went for the Wild Charge, thinking he would assume I'd go for a Flare Blitz and go into his Azumarill, which is Water type, to resist it. But it turns out that I guess he predicts my prediction, and he goes into his Zygarde, which is Ground type, so it's immune to my Wild Charge, which is really, really annoying. So I sit straight out here into Mandibuzz, predicting some sort of Earthquake or whatever he wants to do, or some sort of Dragon Dance, and again threaten him out, as I know whatever item he's holding, which I guess is leftovers, he does not want to get it knocked off. But anyway, I'm just going to go switch out here, actually, and go straight into my Arcanine, I guess predicting him to go straight into his Breloom. So that way I can get the Intimidate on him. But basically, I'm just trying to fodder Arcanine at this point. He can't really do much more this game. But I do like to keep him around, if I can, just for a little bit of free Intimidate Mumbo-Jumbo. I go out into my Garchomp here, and then he actually does switch out. And he's going to go straight out into his Zygarde. I really, really, really want to go for the Outrage here, but I know I can't because his stupid Azumarill is Fairy type, which means it's immune to Dragon type attacks, which is really, really annoying. So I know I cannot go for it, but I know if I go for the Earthquake, he's just going to send in his Trevenant, which actually resists it, which is really, really annoying. But if I go for the Outrage, he'll just switch in Azumarill and just eat it up, and that does absolutely nothing to his Trevenant. His team is so hard to kill, it's absurd. So I switch out into Mandibuzz here, predicting some sort of Leech Seed and whatnot, and it turns out he's actually running Substitute in this set, and oh my god, he happens to be that really, really, really annoying Trevenant set, which is the Sub-Citrus Berry. I'm more used to, I guess, seeing the sort of, the Lum Rest set on Trevenant, but this set is also very prominent and very annoying. So he sets up the Substitute here, which means I can't actually Toxic him or anything, which is rather unfortunate. However, he can't stay in anyway, because Knockoff is super effective and will break his Substitute in one turn. And I go for the knockoff right here, and I get to knock off his Toxic or off Captain Falcon, which again, he's really not fearing, which is why he went into his Breloom. Because Breloom is already poisoned, it already has the Poison Heal ability, so it actually heals from poison instead of taking damage. So it doesn't, holding the Toxic Orb doesn't matter anymore, so he's more than happy to get rid of that. I have no idea what kind of Breloom set this is, but predicting some sort of Substitute or whatnot. Predicting the Grass move like a Leech Seed, I go into my Goodra here, but it turns out he's the subset, which means that he's the Substitute Focus Punch set, which is horrendous for me. So he's going to go for the Focus Punch here. I have really nothing that can take it, so all I need to do is, I figured I just had to stay in here, break his Substitute, that's all I can really do, and then see how well my Goodra can take this hit, but the answer is not very well. Goodra is a very, very specially defensive Pokemon with horrible physical defense, and I actually live at 2 HP! Holy crap, I did not think that I would actually live that at all, but it turns out I did. And now he knows I'm faster than him, so he's going to switch straight into his Blissey, predicting, like, literally any special type attack. I was hoping that he would stay in, not knowing that I'm faster, but he goes into his his Chansey, sorry, which is, well, the nickname is very, very fitting. It's carrying Eviolite, so because it's not fully evolved, it is going to have extra resistances, and it can take any hits my Goodra is dishing out like a champ. I know he's going to go for the Seismic Toss here. I figured I could save my Goodra for Death Fodder later so I can get a free switch in, so I switch out into my Mandibuzz here, knowing I can take the Seismic Toss, and that I can just roost it off. Even though I'm Toxic, I know he cannot afford to take the knockoff on his Chansey, or his Chansey will be completely useless. So I was going to go for the knockoff here, but seeing as he's got two Pokemon that don't mind getting knocked off, that can wall Mandibuzz for days, I decide to go for the Roost here, predicting the switch. And yeah, he does go straight back into Captain Falcon, which is really annoying because I can't really stay in, because if he wants to go for a Substitute, I know Knockoff will not break it. And Knockoff is the only attacking move that I carry on my Mandibuzz, and I can't Toxic him either. So, I'm considering changing my Mandibuzz set to have, like, a Whirlwind in it later. I might do that. Anyway, I know the Focus Punch is coming, there's nothing I can do about it, so I fodder off my Arcanine right here, just so that I can get a free Intimidate off on him to lower his attack a bit. This way, I could force the switch on him, and my hope was, since his attack is lower by 1 level, I can just force the switch here. I can trace his little Poison Heal, not that that matters. I can force the switch here, and I can get off some free damage on something. So I send out my Gardevoir, I Mega Evolve it into Mega-Gardevoir, and then I go for the Moonblast here, because I know that nothing on his team particularly wants to take it, except for maybe his Chansey, but he just stays in and just dies. I'm assuming he was predicting me to go for a Calm Mind, and I was this close to going for a Calm Mind, knowing that he, his attack was dropped and I could just set up freely. but I didn't want to because I thought he might stay in and do something crazy. So I went for the Moonblast there. I managed to actually kill his Breloom, which is great. I know he's just going to go for a Seismic Toss here. I really don't want to take any free damage on my Mega-Gardevoir, so I switch straight into my Garchomp because my Garchomp has rough skin, and I know I can threaten it out. I was this close to going for an Outrager Earthquake, but I predict the switch into Trevenant, because I went for Earthquake last time and he switched out into Trevenant, so I went for the Crunch here, predicting the Trevenant to come in, but that is not the case. That is not the case, and unfortunately Crunch is not going to kill him very quickly. So he actually does go out into Trevenant here, and then I get to actually still go for the Crunch, because I was hoping, you know, there's really no point in me switching out there, so I gotta go for the Crunch, but he actually lives! He actually lives! Oh, which was infuriating, and then he gets to harvest his Citrus Berry. Throughout this entire game, like, FlunkedMath was getting non-stop first-turn harvests. Basically, Trevenant's ability is at the end of every turn is a 50% chance to be able to reuse whatever berry he happened to be holding. So anyway, he predicts me to go for another Crunch, and he goes into his Zygarde, which I've now, by now, obviously realized is a super physically defensive set, and is definitely not the standard set at all that I'm used to. He's clearly not carrying like Dragon Dance, Extreme Speed, and Earthquake and all that mumbo jumbo, and he's actually got Dragon Tail here. So I predict the Dragon Tail because I've seen how he's super defensive, so I figured he was running it here. So I went out into my Mega-Gardevoir, which is Fairy type, which means it's immune to that, and I go for the Moonblast here, praying that he stays in, and I wanted to see how much damage it would do to Chansey, and that is a pitiful amount. That is a lot lower than I thought. Oh my goodness, I was very disappointed. So I assumed that he was going to try and Toxic my Mega-Gardevoir, so I switched straight into my Mandibuzz here, which is already Toxic, which means if you're poisoned, you can't be poisoned again. I'm not 100% sure what I was going to do here, because I know if I go for the knockoff again, he's never going to let his Chansey take those knockoffs, and I can't Toxic his Azumarill either. But I was just praying that if he switched into something else, I could just Toxic it. But no, he does go straight back into his Azumarill, which is, I guess, not that bad, because it does let me switch into something else for free, but he is burning his turns of rest here. That means he's only going to be asleep for 2 turns, so he's this close to waking up now. I'm going to switch straight back out into my Mega-Gardevoir now, and he switches out immediately as well, assuming that I was going to switch out. And he goes into his Trevenant. This is actually very good for me, because I can... and he gets the Harvest again! Oh, it's so annoying. And he heals right up. I could kill this guy in one shot with a Shadow Ball, but unfortunately, I know he could just go out into Chansey, which is really obnoxious here. So I end up going for the Calm Mind, predicting him to switch out into his Chansey. I was this close to going for Shadow Ball, but I was like, no, he's going to go out into Chansey. I'm going to set up a Calm Mind here, and his Chansey is really the only thing that can wall my Mega-Gardevoir here. And I know that the only things that he has that can do damage to me are Toxic and Seismic Toss. And I figured that it would take 4 Seismic Tosses to kill me, since I have 169 HP, I'm level 50, Seismic Toss does 50 damage, does damage equal to your level. So I knew the 4 Seismic Tosses would kill me, and if he Toxic'd me, it would still take like 3 Seismic Tosses to kill me, so I figured I could set up like 3 Calm Minds, and then finally break this Chansey. I was so pumped here. He's gonna soft-boiled right now, predicting me to go for the Moonblast, but I am super greedy, and I went for another Calm Mind because I figured he could just do that. And I want to set up as many Calm Minds as I can here to raise my special attack, so that way I can do enough damage to 2-hit KO this thing. So, with 3 Calm Minds, I go for the Moonblast, and it does nothing. Absolutely nothing. I was horrified. This Chansey is like the worst thing ever. It really is immortal. EVO like Chansey, man, it is very hard to deal with special attacks. So with 3 Calm Minds, I did less than half. I did like 35%. So I switch out Demoralized to my Carracosta, which is my physical sweeper. He's carrying the Shell Smash here. I know I can take the Seismic Toss just fine, and if he wants to Toxic me, I don't care. So now I figured it's time to set up on this Chansey, because this Chansey has to either Seismic Toss me twice or Toxic me or whatever. And my hope is to try and start sweeping his team now. So I set up the Shell Smash here. He goes for the Toxic. I thought he was going to switch out here, so I actually go for the attacking move. In retrospect, I probably should have gone for the second Shell Smash, and I might have actually been able to sweep his team. Going for a second Shell Smash, I probably could have done a lot more. But anyway, I think I go for the Earthquake here, or no, wait, no. I think I go for the Aqua Jet, predicting him to switch in his Zygarde. Yeah, okay, so I do go for the Aqua Jet here, and that does pitiful damage. His Zygarde is also... It happens to be carrying the Rocky helmet, that's what that was. And I was like, oh, that ruins everything. So I go for the EQ here to try and do as much damage as I can. I'm actually not running Stone Edge on this set, but if I was, that would have been a kill. So, not carrying Stone Edge, but definitely bit me in the butt there. Usually I was not running Stone Edge because it always misses. I've got horrible luck in Pokemon, so out of rage, I took it away and I swapped it out for Earthquake. And lo and behold, his stupid Zygarde is also carrying Rest. I was like, what is this? This guy's team is so defensive. Everything in his team can take hits like nobody's business. Alright, so my Carracosta does finally go down here. I figured there's no reason keeping him around. He is poisoned anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So here I switch out into my Garchomp, and I'm going to threaten him with a choice Banded Earthquake. And I'm going to do huge damage for him. I know it'll be a 2-hit KO. I know he can live it because his Zygarde is just so tanky. His entire team is like ultra defensive core. I mean, we haven't even seen his Reuniclus yet, but his entire team can take hits like no one's business. So he knows his Zygarde is basically dead now, so he just keeps it in. And I get to kill it with all these Earthquakes, and this stupid Trevenant comes back in. And the Earthquakes do diddly squat, maybe 20% of this Trevenant. So I know I have to switch out here. I go into my Mega-Gardevoir predicting the Will-O-Wisp because I'm poisoned, so I can't be burned. But he goes for the substitute, I'm assuming predicting the switch, also knowing that my Earthquake probably wouldn't break his sub. So I'm back in here with my Mega-Gardevoir. I'm pretty sure he has nothing that can kill me on his set, but I'm not 100% sure. And he gets another Harvest. And Jesus, like, he's just healing non-stop. I have the Shadow Ball here to go break his substitute. I figured he wouldn't switch because he already has the sub set up. But if he wanted to go into Chansey, that would have made me very sad, definitely. So he goes for the Leech Seed, trying to stall me out with his the substitute, Citrus Berry harvesting, Leech Seed shenanigans. I figured that his one attacking move was probably Horn Leech, but I hadn't seen it yet, and I think later it turns out to be Shadow Claw, which is unfortunate. And he gets another Harvest. I think he gets like a first turn Harvest every single turn this match, I believe. But I do get some hacks later to go balance it out, definitely. But yeah, so I go for the Shadow Ball here, hoping that he stays in because I know it'll actually kill him. But he doesn't, unfortunately, and he goes straight out into that evil pink blob. That evil pink blob, man. And that Chansey can just wall me for days. I switch out here, figuring that there's no real reason that I need to sack my Mega-Gardevoir like that. And I go into my Garchomp. My Garchomp is doing work this game. Oh, and it turns out that this Hitler pink blob is actually carrying Heal Bell, which removes all the status conditions from your team, which means that his Azumarill is now awake, which is very bad news for me. I finally go for the Earthquake here. I actually avoid the Toxic, which wasn't super significant. That would have been a bit of residual damage, but honestly, as you find out later in the match, it didn't really matter that much. However, that Earthquake is a 2-hit KO, and now, once again, I'm locked into Earthquake, and he switches out his stupid Trevenant, and he gets another Harvest. Oh my god, the Harvest shenanigans is absolutely insane, and, yep, here comes the Citrus Berry. I know I have to switch out again. He's well aware of this, and what a crazy game. So I was like, alright, screw it, I'm gonna go fodder my... there's two things. I thought he would, one, either go for the Horn Leech or Leech Seed or something like that to try and stall me out. And that way I can switch to my Goodra, which is actually running Sap Sipper. That way I could soak that up, come in here, get a free switch. Either that or I was just gonna fodder my Goodra if he predicted that. I go for the Flamethrower here to go break his sub. Thankfully I'm faster, so Goodra actually did get to do some decent work this match. And his sub is broken, and yeah, he shows me here that he is actually running the Shadow Claw. I was hoping that the only way he could kill my Goodra is with a Will-O-Wisp, but it turns out he does run Shadow Claw, so that's unfortunate. So I switch into my Garchomp here, once again, and I was like, alright, this time I'm gonna do it. This time I'm gonna go for the Outrage. Because, you know, I've been so conservative this entire match, fearing the Azumarill switch in. I finally go for the Outrage. I muster the courage to go for the Outrage. And he switches into Azumarill, which is immune to it, and I was like, oh, this is infuriating. So I switch out into my Mega-Gardevoir to take the play rough and to just fodder it. It's unfortunate, but this Azumarill is doing work, and the Eviolite Chansey is super tanky. So I go back out into Garchomp. Garchomp is just the MVP of this game. My Garchomp is doing work. And I go for the Earthquake here, and I get a critical hit, which is actually extremely significant. Missing the Toxic on me was, you know, it didn't really matter in the long run, but me getting that crit Earthquake actually did matter. He would have lived at about like 5 to 10% tops. He would have been really, really low on his Azumarill, and he would have been able to revenge kill me with the Plate Rough there, but I actually do get the critical hit, thank God. After all those first turn harvests, it was really, really nice to get that crit. Otherwise, this Stallfest would have probably gone on forever. But that Earthquake definitely did matter, unfortunately. And Earthquake is actually going to be a 2-hit KO on his Reuniclus, and I do get to live the Psyshock, which wouldn't do that much. My Garchomp's extremely bulky. And then now he goes out into his Trevenant, which once again can take the Earthquakes like an absolute champ. So I have to switch out again. And I go out into my boy Mandibuzz here. And he goes for the substitute here, knowing that again I have to switch, and he gets another. No, he's just eating the berry right now. I forget if he actually gets the harvest this time. I'm not 100% sure if he does. We get a bit of Lefty's recovery right now. Taking a little bit of that toxic damage. Let's see, does he? Yeah, he does get the harvest. Oh, you got it. I think he got it every time this match, honestly. I believe he got it every single turn. Anyway, I go for the knockoff here to go break his substitute. Since his Azumarill's gone, actually, and his Breloom is gone, he now has nothing that wants to take this knockoff, which is great. And he gets to go eat his Citrus Berry again, and this Trevenant set is so annoying. It's such a strong wall. Strong Pokemon, indeed. Alright, so we're both getting a little bit of recovery right now, and this match is almost over. He has so few Pokemon left, and as do I. And I go for another knockoff here to go break his substitute. And we're going to go see what he does right now. I don't exactly remember. I get a crit there. That did not matter at all. I would have broken this up without it. But he goes for the Leech Seed here, which is annoying. He's going to try and stall me out a little bit here. Ooh. But, you know, I wasn't 100% sure. I was like, should I just keep Mandibuzz in here? Because I think he's just going to win the stall war. Especially with all the non-stop harvests. I mean, like, I wasn't 100% sure if I could stay in. He is just healing like no one's business. And then he can just sub with the Leech Seed. And then the Citrus Berry recovery is very, very strong. However, I do finally actually get an opportunity to knock him, to use knockoff on his actual Trevenant and not the substitute. So, I know that he doesn't actually want to take that. So I go for the Toxic here, predicting his Chansey to come in, and I get the Toxic on the Chansey, and I was like, yes! But he actually has Heal Bell, so I guess that didn't really matter. In retrospect, I probably should have gone for a knockoff anyway, but I was thinking that, like, if I went for the Toxic, it would kind of force him to go for the Heal Bell, which means that he would have to stay in on his Chansey to take the knockoff. So that was my master plan here. I was like, okay, if I Toxic him, he has to stay in to use Heal Bell. Otherwise, there's no way he can stall me out. Either that or I'll have to go for a Soft Boiled. So that way I can force him to stay in, and I can knock off his Eviolite, and now his Chansey's defenses are crippled. Chansey is no longer the massive brick wall that it once was before, and now it can actually be beaten. Alright, so now that his Chansey's defenses are crippled, unfortunately my Mandibuzz finally does actually succumb to the toxic damage and does go down. Mandibuzz did work this match. I'm very, very happy to see my Garchomp and Mandibuzz and whatnot really working out, but I'm half considering tacking on like Whirlwind onto it, because right now I'm running like a knockoff, Defog, Roost, and Toxic, yeah. Alright, so I switch back out into my Garchomp. Well, that's what I send out immediately after, and I know that I can actually finally kill this thing, so I go for an Outrage. I know it'll be a 1-hit KO, because he no longer has Eviolite, and his defenses are nothing, and the Outrage here almost kills his Trevenant. It was so close. I was like 100% sure it would kill him. Unfortunately, Garchomp is actually my last Pokemon, and Trevenant was his as well, but I actually kill him with the Rough Skin, which is really, really funny. And that way, the battle actually just ends up like that. Ends up actually in a draw. Although it says I won, but I consider that a draw on the inside. I was definitely actually a draw. I had no idea that it would end up that way, even though it was counted as a win. I thought it was a very, very, very fun match, and how appropriate that my Garchomp actually gets to kill that Trevenant there with the Rough Skin when that Trevenant is at like just 2% HP. So really, really great Wi-Fi battle there. FlunkedMath, of course, was one of my first subscribers actually on my channel, and has always been a very active and very awesome, friendly viewer. Always a pleasure interacting with this guy, and he is one really, really good battler. I had no idea he would be this good. That was one intense battle, and still to this date, the longest Pokemon battle I have ever had. So, real pleasure, definitely. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave me a like rating, as well as a comment below. As usual, I really appreciate the support, guys, and remember, I do live stream regularly, so I would love to see you. I do live stream both Pokemon and Age of Empires, so there's something for everybody there. Alright, thanks again for the support, guys, and as always, I will see you all next time. If you're watching on YouTube, that is. If you're watching this live as I do this commentary on Twitch, obviously live stream not over. Alright, thanks again.